Hi, in this video, I will be doing a DBQ. So there are 4 different DBQs that I might do from each year of the AP exam. Oh, look, 2022. It would be nice if we got that one, then we would know what it is. So let's see. What do we have? Oh, wow. Well, sorry. Can't have that. All right, let's try again. Oh, 2021. Let's do that DBQ. All right, so we have the DBQ here. So I'm gonna have the DBQ right here, and I'm gonna have what I type here. Now, obviously, hopefully you know that this year now it's gonna be on paper. And when you write the DBQ, you're gonna wanna use a black pen. And with that pen, you'll have to scratch out things or write over it, like cross things out when you don't write the correct thing. But I cannot show you myself writing something. So I'm just going to type it. So first, let's talk about what this is. So it is generally considered the hardest section of the exam. And when is the exam this year? On Friday. Oh, today is Sunday and it's on Friday. That's good. Okay, fine. What is the average score? 2 out of 7 points. That's not so good. And that doesn't necessarily mean the students write bad essays, although they're not always good. But what it means is that it can be pretty difficult to get the points on this. Let's talk about what points we need to get. Point number 1 is the thesis point. This is your claim, and it must be specific. This is a major thing. So if you take another AP class like AP Lang, you may just have a thesis like, this is this because of this, this, and this. This is not what you can do for the AP US History DBQ. A good thing to think about is try to answer it as if you're answering a SAQ. Make your thesis look like an SAQ response. That's what it needs to be like. It needs to be 1 to 2 sentences that are full and that are specific, that contain specific facts. And we'll see what that means later. And it cannot just be general things, like there were economic and social changes. Unfortunately, that won't make the cut. All right, next, really, we'll see, this comes before the thesis. This is context. This is basically background information, and it needs to be before the time period, and it needs to have a fact that is specific with it and it is explained. You can't just say something. Unfortunately, the easy way out never works for the DBQ. You have to be as specific as you want to be, or as you can be. Not as you want to be. That would be nice. Okay, what's the third point that you can get? You can get a third point for using 3 documents that must support the thesis that you state. And by supporting the thesis, it means you can't just say, well, this is what document 1 says. Well, okay, good, at least you know what it means, but how does that make your thesis be true? So it must support what you say. But you can get a 4th point if you use 6 documents. So that's what's a little bit strange about this. And there's 7 documents, remember? So it's of your best interest to use all 7. That way, if you mess up one, you can still get both of these points. So you don't want to aim for just 1 point. Why would you want to do that? So you should use all 7 documents, and then you can get both of these points. And still, they must support the thesis. Then you must also have at least one outside fact that, of course, supports the thesis. It's better to have two. So I'll put that up here. It's better to have use seven, not 65, 7 documents and 2 facts. Now, no more than 2, actually. I mean, you can, and if you happen to think what you use doesn't work, but you don't want to waste time. You have 60 minutes. That might seem like a lot. And if you see this 1 hour and 40 minutes, that includes the LEQ. So no. All right. So, and the outside fact has to be explained, and it has to be a specific thing. So you can't say, well, in the 1800s, there was an economic change. Well, what economic change? You could say, well, the industries rose up, such as Andrew Carnegie's steel industry. That's what you need to say, specific. That's the main thing. Main thing, specific, and connected to thesis. That's the main things that you need to do. All right, now the 6th point that you can get is sourcing. What is sourcing? Well, you need to explain the purpose of a document, the audience of a document, the point of view of the person that wrote it, or the historical context. So point of view, like, they are saying this because they are a member of this women's rights movement or something like that. And it should be more descriptive than that. We'll see later on. But audience, I mean, obviously, who is this written for and why? And then purpose, they wrote this in order to. Historical context, this document was written in 1886, which was in the middle of the Gilded Age. So basically, something like that. And you need to do that for at least 3 documents. At least 3, but it's in your best interest to do 4 and no more than that. Some people want to do all 7, and that's a mistake I made. If you do that, then good, but you might run out of time, and you want to make sure that you are explaining. And the sourcing must also support your thesis or be connected to it. So, and then the last thing that you can get, is complexity point. Now, something to note about this, only 2% of people get this. But what you have to do is think about continuity and change and comparison, etc. So just something where you're like, oh, you're kind of comparing the documents or comparing different time periods. That's the way to get that, but it is very difficult to get. All right, those are the 7 points. All right, now that we have the 7 points, let's talk about what is the order to do. I have some acronyms for you that can tell you what to do. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is plan the DBQ, which you have 15 minutes to do so. Don't skip this. This is a very essential thing. This thing is pretty hard to write, so this thing is planning out what you're going to say. All right, the first thing that you need to do is read the prompt. Know what it is asking. That might seem straightforward, but guess what? If you just blaze over that, then guess what? What if you accidentally write an essay and about the wrong thing, and then you realize when time's up? That's going to make you very stressed out. You might not even do as well in the LEQ because of that. Think about it. So you want to make sure that you know what it's asking, because they make these prompts annoying. They'll add in a little thing like there was one like, that's not this one, is it? No. One of them was saying the political changes from the progressive era And then someone might just write an essay about the social changes, and they might not think about that. So that's what you do first. Then you will read the documents. So read them, and you need to group them. So you need to think about how could they answer the question. And a lot of these are evaluate the extent. So it's saying how much. So how much did ideas of revolution change from 1763 to 1783? And then if a document shows a lot, you'll be like, a lot, not a lot. You'll see the process as I do it. So I needed to stop trying to get ahead of myself. So sorry about that. All right, now, after you do that, you will think of your context. Remember, that's the background information. What are you going to say as background information? And it needs to be before what the prompt time period is. Then, so I'll add that right here. Before time prompt time period. Then you need to think of your thesis. All right, what are you actually going to say? Are you going to say a lot or not a lot? If it's an extent question, which it has been for the last, I don't know, a lot of years. So it's probably going to be extent again. So you can say a lot, not a lot. Now, keep in mind, if you happen to get an essay that doesn't have this, then obviously that's not what it would be, but it's usually extent. And remember what I said, answer like it's an SAQ. All right, that's planning. Once you do that, now you can start writing. What do you do when you write? Well, a good idea is to have 4 paragraphs. You might have 5 paragraphs in your English class, but you usually only have 2 lines of reasoning. So 2 lines of reasoning in your thesis. So the thing that you're going to do is context in the first thing you do is context. A good word to start out with is throughout, and we'll see that. Then you do the thesis. After that, you have 2 body paragraphs, and in there you need to have your topic sentence, which is a line of reasoning. So whatever you say in the thesis, you'll say 2 things in the thesis, and they'll be the 2 topic sentences of the 2 body paragraphs. Then you'll use document, and explain, always explain and be specific. You can have an outside fact, and you can source. And I can say documents because however many documents you use, you might have 3, you might have 4, depending on the situation. Usually that's what it is. Then you will have a conclusion statement that kind of just wraps it up. It's not a point that you need, but because we went through the points. So just by this, if we did a context right, that's a point. Thesis right, that's a point. If we used 3 documents in here, that's a point. And if we use 3 more in a different body paragraph, that's another point. So now we have 4. Outside fact, that's 5. Sourcing 3 correctly, that's another point. And if we somehow got complexity, that's the last point. So you do that times 2 for both paragraphs, body paragraphs. Now, in some cases, you may have 3, but it's better to do 2, in my opinion, because usually that's the only thing that most of them only allow for 2, and I'll show you what that means. Then finally, in the final paragraph, you're going to want to do a conclusion in which you compare time periods and sort of restate your thesis. And obviously there's no conclusion point, so it doesn't really matter. You don't even need a conclusion. So you need to do, what you need to do is the bare minimum to get the maximum. Let's just write that. Bare minimum to get the maximum. So you want to do the minimum, but not the very minimum, because then you won't get any points. Do the least work you need to do to get the most points. If you do too much, you might think, oh, it's not bad to write too much. Yeah, it is, because then you run out of time and you might have been rambling on about something and they might consider that a reason not to give you a point. They're very picky, very, very picky. So this is, and by the way, the writing should be for 45 minutes and you have 60 minutes in all. So this is what we're doing for the DBQ. This is what we're doing. And I'm going to write the DBQ, but I'm not going to write it in an hour necessarily because I'm trying to teach you how to write it. But it is good to maybe when you're first practicing with DBQs, do it without a time constraint, but as you get better, then add in the time constraint. Obviously, if you're watching this when this was made and you're preparing for the 2022 exam, well, unfortunately, you can't really do that, but just do what you can. So remember, do the bare minimum to get the maximum and be specific and connected to the thesis. Those are the main things you need to remember. And do these things to get all the points. All right, so we are going to go ahead and look at what the prompt is. And here's a checklist. What they tell you in your response, you should do the following. Well, guess what? That's what I already said up here. That's how you get the points. They're basically telling you. And when you're done writing your essay, you can look and see, oh, okay, let's see. Did I do that? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So now we're going to look at what the question says. Okay, hang on. I got this thing here. You can't see it, but it's a screen recorder thing. I got to move it. All right, put it down here. So it says, evaluate the extent. Oh, of course. To which economic growth led to changes in the United States society from 1940 to 1970. All right, we need to underline some things. Evaluate the extent. That means how much. That's what that means. How much? That is the question. How much? That's what they are asking you. So that's what you need to say in your essay. Your thesis should be, it changed a lot because of this and this, or it changed not a lot because of this and this. And what changed? How much did economic growth change from 1940 to 1970? Those are the things that you need to know. Obviously, United States society, that makes sense. This is US history. So those are the things we need to know. Okay, now, remember what things do? We do RDCT, RDCT, RDCT. That's what we do. All right, planning. We're planning now, okay? Let's read the first document. And by the way, for the documents, you do not have to understand what everything says. Of course, they're going to give you probably something that sounds like gibberish. Maybe not as much, luckily, for this one because it's this time period. Okay, so always see who wrote it, right? This is FDR. We should know who that is. And this is his GI Bill of Rights. And we see it was from 1944. Okay, well, what was the GI Bill? Oh yeah, it helped soldiers in the post-war time. It was designed to help them in the post-war time. And it was very successful. That's what we need to know. That's background information to know. All right, let's see. This bill gives servicemen and women the opportunity to resume their education. All right, they can resume their education. And not only without tuition charge up to $500 per year, but the right to receive a monthly living allowance. Oh, well, that must mean that economic growth was occurring if they could hand out that money. Okay. All right. So that's the main things we need to know. So does this show a lot or not a lot? Because that's the question. That's how we group it. A lot or not a lot. All right. A lot. So we'll write a lot for this one. Oops. And if all of them turn out to be a lot, then we figure out what's the difference between the a lots. All right. Now, what do we have? And you might not know everything. All right. Property deed to the McIntosh family. I don't know what that is. At least we know it's in 1947, but we don't know who that is. You might, but I don't. All right, let's see. This deed is made subject to the following restrictions. See, just by that, we know that they're trying to confuse us. Don't let them confuse you. Just try to figure it out. All right. subject to the following. All right, there will be restrictions, conditions, limitations, covenants, agreements. It seems interesting. All right, well, let's look at this thing. All right, no part of said property should be used or occupied by any person of Asiatic, sorry if I said that wrong. So it looks like this is sort of a racist statement, whatever it is. So never shall be occupied by any of those people. And so sometimes they're a little bit confusing. This one is a little bit confusing. Let's try to figure out how does this relate to economics, and we need to think fast. Okay, can't take too long trying to figure out what it means, or we'll run out of time. Even though I know I'm not timing this thing. Okay. So we can come back to it, but this kind of seems like negative compared to the other ones. So maybe we can say not for now, but well, see, I'll just put a question mark. Not, because we're a little bit confused about that one. And you remember you only need 6 to get both of those points. And to be honest, you can get only 4 points and you can still pass the exam, considering that you do well on the other things. So don't be too stressed out about it, but remember, we're trying to do the bare minimum to get the maximum. All right, this is how I keep my house. 1949. All right, how do you keep your house, McCall? Let's see. All right. So bringing a baby into the apartment, taught her nothing else. Good housekeeping equipment. Ooh, that seems like a good thing. Ooh, washing machine. Wasn't that a sort of new invention then? Okay, no. We're just trying to go fast, right? All we need to take from that is that we can write a lot. Okay, so we already know that we might be able to group 1 and 3. All right, let's see. Now thousands own 2 fine cars. Oh, this is an easy one. And we don't need to waste our time reading it. We just see that. We already know a lot. We can come back for more information if needed. When we're sourcing it, if we choose to source it. Okay. All right, now we have William White. Don't know who that is, but at least we see it's in 1956. Okay. This book is about the organization man. Organization men are not the workers, nor are they the white collar people in the usual clerk sense. They work for the organization. This thing seems a little bit confusing. Let's see, what is it trying to say? They are all, as they so often put it, in the same boat. Listen to them talk to each other over front lawns in their suburbia. Oh, this is the key thing that tells us a lot, because remember, with economic growth, there is suburbanization. That's background information to know. Okay, so you just have to pick the, they might say gibberish, they'll throw some gibberish thing at you. Just pick up what you need and move on. All right. Ooh, yay, math. That's probably easy. Ooh, interstates. A lot. This means a lot. Oops, sorry, that looks like a Q. A lot. Remember the Eisenhower's interstate thing? His Federal Highway Act? So, okay. And let's see the last thing. Road to ruin. That doesn't sound so good. Let's see. An engineering firm laid out the freeway, Interstate 40. It would wipe out homes and churches. Ooh. This is, all right, that's all we need to say not a lot. All right. So remember, RDCT, we already did R, we're doing D, and we haven't finished D, because now we need to group them. So I'll do check and X for if economic, what was the question exactly again? Evaluate the extent of, so did economic growth change a lot? Or was economic growth a lot or not a lot? So what do we choose? Okay, so remember we were a little bit confused about this one. So we can say not for this one, because obviously if you're excluding those people, that means it's not good for them economically. So we're going to say 2 and 7 are the nots and the rest are the, so usually it's 3 and 4. In this case, it's 5 and 2. So we're going to say 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 for changed a lot, and 2 and 7 for didn't change a lot. All right. Now we've done R and D. All right, what's C? Context. All right, what are we going to use for context? So what contributed to this economic growth? So if you didn't study, that's why this is a little bit hard. So what led to economic growth in this time period? Let's try to think. What was there that would have contributed to that? And it needs to be before. Let's think. Well, we could use the New Deal, because this helped America get out of the Great Depression. Originally I was thinking the transition to a wartime economy, but we cannot use that. And the reason why is because that falls in this time period. Remember, it has to be before. So we can use the New Deal as our context. So that's simple enough. I'll just say context CT. Or wow, that's kind of confusing. I'll just say con. All right, now our thesis. Now I'll just type this. All right. Let's see, I'll make blue font. Okay, so remember the thesis needs to be like answering an SAQ. Okay, so SAQs have to have, as we know, it has to have a specific fact. And this is almost like a double SAQ. So because we have some documents that contradict, we are going to say it changed a lot because more of the documents show that. So we're going to say economic growth occurred to a great extent in the United States. In the United States in the time period of 1940 to 1970. And so that's our claim, but that's not enough. We need to have lines of reasoning. So we can say although, we need to say although first because we have kind of a contradicting thing, remember, because some said it didn't. Although some racial prejudice, I'm not going to even try to say that word. Sorry about that. Prejudice. I know that word. I don't know why my brain's not knowing what it's pronounced like. But although there were some racial that occurred and the time period of 1940 to 1970 as a result, resulting in low economic growth for some. Economic growth occurred in a great extent in the United States, and I'm not going to say that anymore because I already said it, due to. Now, what do all these documents have in common? That say a lot. Well, let's see. Here we have the Roosevelt making a GI Bill. Here we have some new inventions. Here we have some new inventions. Here we have some new suburbs. And so we can, for all these, we can say that due to the expansion of let's see, what are we going to say? Not necessarily this expansion of government per se, because some of these were due to inventions. Due to the expansion of economic growth occurred to a great extent in the United States due to expansion of. Obviously, we can't say the expansion of the economy. That's redundant. The expansion of So it can be tricky. We need to make sure we get this right because this is the basis of our argument. We can say the expansion of consumerism. Now, this is not a fact per se. So I said to answer it like a SAQ. Well, it is a fact. It's not necessarily a specific fact, but that is what we end up doing in the body paragraph. So this would be an ample thesis. It is one sentence. Occasionally they can be, when you have a DBQ like this, where some documents say the opposite of what you're going to say, like 2 and 7, then you're going to want to go with the although route. If they all say the same thing, then you're going to want to do your first sentence and then furthermore, but although shows that there's different things, okay? So now we have finished our DBQ planning. Yay. Now I got it right. But at least we know what we're going to say. Now, if we had some more time, it would be useful to think of some specific facts we could use. Let's think of our outside facts. So let's think of 2 outside facts that we might use. Because we only need 2. Let's see. So we can't use the Federal Highway Act of 1956 because that's already in the documents. Let's see. It's got to be something specific. Sorry. Let's see. We could use. Now you got to try to do it fast. Let's see. So you could use now it can be anything from 1940 to 1970. So let's try to think. We can use invention of The expansion, we could use the expansion of TV. TV, does it say TV? Now, it depends on how specific that is. So TV invention, but it would be useful to know who invented it and when. Now, I'm going to look that up. This is not something that you'll be able to do. Invented the TV. It was invented by Philo Farnsworth. When? Well, it was invented in 1927, so that does not really help us. But it did become more widely used in that time period. So sometimes you get a little bit stuck. So we might have to think of something as we go. So TV invention, we might be able to use that, but we'll have to try to think. I cannot personally think of any other specific facts that show consumerism necessarily. We could use rock and roll in the 1960s, which that led to some consumerism of maybe some records, but we'll just move on now. That's what we got to do. All right. So now we're going to start this area. What would we do in the first paragraph, intro paragraph? CT, context, thesis. All right. We said we were going to use the New Deal as a context. So what we need to do is explain how did the New Deal lead to the economic prosperity in the 1940 to 1970. So let's say in 1929, let me change this font. I don't really like it. In 1929, the Great Depression began with the stock market crash. This led to high unemployment and many other economic crises. Oh, sorry, don't know how to write apparently. Okay. Now, in 1932, President Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected and integrated we can just say Roosevelt integrated his concept, the New Deal, to recreate economic stability. Okay. We can say, for example, he enacted the Glass-Steagall Act to create a stable bank. Ugh. Nose is a little stuffy today. Ugh. As a result, America was brought out from the valley of economic depression. The transition, this is not technically, this is sort of the context, but this includes the time period. The transition to A wartime economy increased production, further stimulating economy. All right, and now we're going to use our thesis. Although there were some racial prejudice, here we go again. Prejudices. That's a hard word to say for some reason. That occurred in the time period of 1940 to 1970, resulting in low economic growth. For some, economic growth occurred. We could word that differently. They don't take off points for bad wording unless it's not specific. But we'll leave it at that for now. To a great extent in the United States, due to the expansion of consumerism. All right, that is our first paragraph. Now, what I just mentioned about it being worded oddly, remember, do the bare minimum to get the maximum. It is not, it's doing more than the bare minimum if you're trying to make it sound like some sort of proper expert thing. You just need to do, they don't have a choice. They would get in trouble if they didn't give you the point just because something was worded bad. If it still had a defendable thesis that didn't restate the prompt, that's exactly what the rubric says, then they have to give it to you. All right, so just by that, yippee-yay, we have 2 points. All right, now here's the next part. All right, let's now try to think about what ones will we source. The ones that we want to source are the ones that we understand the most. Remember, I was kind of confused a little bit about number 2. Maybe we don't want to do that one, but I'll circle in purple the ones that I want to source. Okay. Historical context, I don't know, that it doesn't seem like it would be that easy to do any of them for that one. Oh, actually, it would. We can connect it to the bonus army. This is an outside fact. It is not in the time period, but it is an outside fact. And I'll talk about that later. This is the purpose or historical context of FDR making that. Okay. All right, we'll skip that one. This is how I keep my house. Okay, we can say we can do this one. Oh, sorry, that was not, I circled the wrong thing. That's so hang on. I gotta pause this for a second. Okay, there will be a second part of this video, but I have to stop this part real quick, okay? So see the next part.